They did not meet.
Did not meet. And we are now recording, just so everyone knows. And just since the recording started, I will just state for the record that we had some technical difficulties regarding the recording, and so that's why it's starting a few minutes into the meeting. Anyway, next up is energy. Is there a report from the Energy Committee?
Sure. I can report that we were very focused and just working on the enhanced energy plan updates that Maddie had drafted. And at this point, we're just going through them line by line and eagerly anticipating a new energy planner's input on said plan. And that's it. We'll be meeting again next Monday.
Thank you. Next up is local government. Is there a report from them?
Local government did not meet, but we are meeting on Monday to review Waltham's plan, and we will have a recommendation for the full commission at the January meeting.
Thank you. Next is natural resources. Does anyone have a report from them?
Natural resources has not met.
Thank you. The TAC?
The TAC did meet. They met jointly with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. Did you want to give this, Hugh? Were you there?
I missed it.
So they met jointly with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission's TAC and received a presentation from VTrans on the improvements that VTrans is currently making to Route 22A, primarily in Rutland County, but also stretching up into Orwell and maybe even into Shoreham.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering about natural resources. Were they able to respond to the Otter Creek Basin plan?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically, if you recall, Leander's memorandum basically said that the plans were compatible. He presented it to Arabella. And we sent in a letter basically saying that the plans were compatible as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next up is housing. Oh, I'm sorry. We seem to have a question. Ed? Ed, you're on mute.
Andy Manning, who was our TAC representative from Bridgeport, and also my fellow representative from Bridgeport, is now in the nursing home. So I don't know what's going on from there.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. And I think Adam, is that the select board's responsibility for TAC appointments?
It is, but right, I think Ed's just providing that for our information.
Okay.
So thank you for letting us know, Ed. I'm sorry to hear that about Andrew. He's been a longstanding member for a long time, and I hope it's something that might be, reversible. But we'll send him our best wishes.
Agreed. So I believe the next up was the housing committee. Did they meet?
Yes, I'll pinch hit for Tim.
Thank you. I was just going to say thank you, Shannon.
No problem. We met just before this meeting. We continued our discussion of Act 181 standards for planning areas, basically mapping planning areas by municipality. We are hoping to have a meeting broader, inviting planning commission members and select board members to go over some samples with three different sample towns, showing how this process may play out. And we're looking to do that in February, not in January, as we were originally discussing. And it might be a longer meeting. It may take a couple of hours. So more to be coming on that, but it could be an exciting and an informative process. After that initial meeting is done, Planning Commission staff intend to set up meetings with individual towns to go over their individual mapping prospects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then finally on the list is economic development, which did not meet. So that brings us to the fifth agenda item, which is joint partner reports, delegate and staff recognition. There's nothing listed, but Adam, is there anything to go in there?
I'm gonna acknowledge Fred Kenny here from Economic Development and see if he wants to share anything with us. Um I don't believe I have anything, but Fred, go ahead. Maybe I'll think of something while you're speaking.
No, I didn't have anything prepared. Our new office operations manager is all trained and on board, and she's helping out April with some of your bookkeeping needs. So hopefully that's moving along. We are starting. I met with the Addison Select Board regarding some of their town-owned buildings and possibly us being Addison County Economic Development, applying to USDA Rural Development for a rural business development grant to do a study of the highest and best use of some of their buildings. We got initial approval from the select board to move ahead with that. Just waiting for details on what they'd like the scope to be. That's due in February. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Fred.
And Joe, I think I'd just like to thank Andrew for doing a really good job on the newsletter this month. There's a lot of information in there for all of you.
Agreed. So with those, with that, we'll move on to the next item of our agenda, number 6, which is old business, which begins with our Maple broadband update.
Good evening, folks. I'll make it fairly brief. We've been working for the last almost 6 months to complete our construction work this year under the auspices of the ARPA construction grant. We've gone through almost all of that grant money, but we've also walked away from it with new network hubs installed in Cornwall, Shoreham, Orwell, and Leicester. We just completed Leicester's activation about a week ago. So all of our hubs that we needed to build have been built and activated and are serving subscribers, as well as our central hub located up in Virgins. So we've got a lot to show for what we've done to date. Our next big move is to make an application for a BEAD grant. And under the terms of that grant, we would hope that we would have sufficient money to really complete our build. We're just getting started. We're assuming the best there. And we're assuming, under that assumption, we are engaged in pretty high-level planning to place 2 new hubs, the last 2 hubs in our network, one in Middlebury and one in Ripton. So we're working on identifying some space. We've just recently got approval from Middlebury for locating the hub there. So we've got that site established, and Ripton, I think, is not too far behind. So we won't do a heck of a lot of construction work under the optimum circumstances. The construction might not begin until maybe the 3rd or 4th quarter of next year, because there's a lot of red tape associated with that BEAD grant. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how that plays out. There are conditions under which BEAD might not even happen. We don't really know what's going to happen in Washington, so we're just going to keep our fingers crossed, and we're kind of putting one foot in front of the other and making sure that all the diligence we can do, we're doing now to prepare for a successful BEAD application. And we'll pivot if and when we need to. But for right now, that's the laser beam that we're focusing everything on. Any questions? Shannon. Uh-oh. You want to ask how many subscribers we have?
I do. I was going to ask, is it true that we have 487 active subscribers?
You don't even need me on these calls. We're so close to 500. We're all waiting to celebrate about 500 subscribers. Why can't we just get a couple more subscribers? It's but Ellie de Villiers, who's our executive director, she's trying to find a way to encourage people to sign up. And one of those promotional efforts she's engaged in, which I think is terrific, is for any new subscriber that we take on between now and the end of the year, if or if the existing subscriber wants to increase their service level, we'll donate $50 to the nearest food shelf. So we're trying to demonstrate our civic mindedness in light of the fact that we're not for profit. So that's the first in a number of steps I think you'll be seeing we're developing in the early part of 2025 to kind of try to raise our visibility, help the community understand that we're not in it for profit, we're in it for keeps, and we're going to make sure that we've got all of our subscribers are members of that same community.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Thanks so much, Steve. And as always, I'm here thanks to Maple Broadband. Because it's been wonderful. I was one of the first subscribers. I always love Maple Broadband, love these updates. So the next,
Joe, you did. It wasn't without some missteps because you're kind of on the burning edge of our operation. So we very much appreciate your patience and your support and enthusiasm because I hope it sounds like it was worthwhile for you. So that's great.
Very much worthwhile. It's been great, great so far. So thanks, Steve. And our next item is Adam with a staff hiring report.
So I have good news on this front. I have basically, well, I haven't done the final paperwork. Still got to check a couple of references, but I have hired 3 new people here for the Regional Planning Commission staff, which I think is fabulous. Some of those names will be people will be familiar to a lot of you. I guess I will share their names. I don't have everything signed, but I've got an oral agreement with all of them, and I'm confident enough that that it will happen. So each of them will start January 6th. And Jolyon Larson, Dr. Jolyon Larson will be our energy planner. He's a newly minted PhD from UVM, from the gun school. So looking to bring some real horsepower to that program. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say, and help you out, Cheryl. I was thinking, Cheryl, of giving the Energy Committee the month off and going to, there you go, going to a fresh start with Jolyon in January. If that sounds good to all of you, I'll send out a note. I saw the fireworks, Cheryl, so I'll take that as a yes.
I will take that as a Christmas present to us. Thank you, Adam.
All right, excellent. And to me too. So that's our first one, our energy planner, Jolyon. Our next 2 planners will largely be community planners, so they'll do a lot of different things. They'll help us with the 181 housing work. We've got a lot of outreach to do for that. That Shannon talked about earlier in the evening. The first one is Rebecca Elder. So she was most recently the town administrator in the town of Starksboro. Well known to a lot of us here. She's going to also help us basically with the administration of our plan. She's had a graphic design business. So while each of the committees and other staff planners will do a lot of the writing, she's going to be the person that's going to basically weave things together, weave all the different chapters together for us. So really pleased to have Rebecca coming on. And then the last planner that we've hired is Danelle Barong from Virgens. She will do a lot with housing for us. I expect she will also help us out with a lot of different outreach projects. She's a longtime resident. She's a really good project manager, really knowledgeable, really enthusiastic. Has most recently been a realtor, so very familiar with our housing market. And we're looking forward to getting all of them on and started. So that's my hiring update.
And she was also on the Virgin's Planning Commission for quite some time.
Yes, 5 years. Thank you. And actually, I saw her at the design charrette that we were doing in Virgins today for the transportation-oriented development project that we're working on there.
Awesome.
That's great. Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to a MERP update with Adam.
Great. So I wanna point you to the front page of the newsletter. There were 10 towns in Addison County that received almost $3 million total of MERP funds. My plea to you is if you are one of those 10 towns, make sure that you get your grant application back before 12/16. So it's coming right up. Today's the 11th. You've got 5 days to get that in BGS's hot little hands. I think most of the towns have done it, but if you live in Orwell, Ripton, Leicester, Starksboro, Goshen, Ferrisburg, Virgins, Bristol, Bridport, Whiting, please make sure your select board has signed that on your behalf and gets it into BGS, because if you do not get it into BGS by the 16th, you will lose those funds. And it's, anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000, depending upon the towns. And Jennifer, I'm going to say I really would love you to make sure that Heather and your select board are on top of it.
Yep. Will do.
Thank you. Great. But really,
Writing an email as we're speaking.
Excellent. Great. So really good projects. So weatherization and efficiency projects for municipal buildings, bringing, a lot of our buildings that were built in 18th or 19th century up to at least 20th century, 21st century energy standards. So I think it'll be really great projects. The other thing that I have in the newsletter there is that the bond bank got $40 million to also do energy improvements for municipal buildings. So if you're one of the 10 towns in Addison County, no, 11 towns in Addison County that did not get a MERP grant, there's still an opportunity for you all to make energy improvements with a low interest loan. And one of the projects that I'm going to have Jolyon working on first is to try and work through the assessments that we did of each of your buildings and see if we can pick out the lowest hanging fruit and create a package that will cash flow from day one for you. And work with you to work with the bond bank to try and access those funds for those towns that were not in the MERP grant. So more on that when Jolyon gets on, but looking forward to pursuing that with all of you.
Hey, Adam, this is Fred.
Hi, Fred.
Can I suggest that when people send those applications in, that you request a response from whoever's receiving it at BGS? We had
I think that's
an incident recently with the BGS program where several applications, a different program, but where several applications were supposedly never received and never went to the committee looking over the applications. So you may want to just ask for a receipt for your email when you send in your applications.
great suggestion, Fred. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, the next item on the agenda is a bylaws update, which I can give. And so the executive committee formed a sort of an ad hoc committee for the purpose of looking at the bylaws. Folks may remember from a few months ago, I had caught a inconsistency in the bylaws, and we thought it might be a good opportunity to sit down and go through it and see what inconsistencies we might find and try to clean it up. And so the executive board approved an ad hoc committee of myself, Ross, and Adam, and we are going to be reading them over. And sometime in early to mid-January, we will be meeting and discussing sort of our findings. And from there, we will decide what things we want to tackle, and then end up proposing language to the full commission. And we would go from there. Any questions? Okay. Next is other. Do we have any other, Adam?
I do not have any other old business for you.
Great. So we'll move to new business. And next up is the fiscal year 2026 dues proposal and vote.
So, my proposal to you all, and I did not run this, I forgot to run this by the executive board when they met on December 4th. But my proposal is that we just level fund this year. There's been a lot of news about property taxes. You'll see later in our agenda when we talk about the audit. So the next item that we made a fair amount of money last year, we were in the black, ran in the black by a pretty considerable sum. And just given everything all your municipalities are dealing with this year, I think it's a good year for us to level fund it and let them take care of some other expenses.
You're here.
So moved.
Okay, so
Second.
there has been a motion made and seconded to level fund the dues for the municipalities for the commission for fiscal year 2026. Is there a particular number associated with level funding, Adam, that we should be stating in the motion?
It's right around $45,000, $46,000, I believe. So it
Okay.
is at I think it's 138 per capita, but I'm pulling that off the top of my head, and I don't necessarily want to quote it because
Yeah, so let's just say level funding then. Yeah, that makes sense. I'd rather do that. So we have level funding as the motion. Is there any discussion around this that folks would like to have, or any questions?
Is there a place to look for what that number is? Documents or
yeah, I'm certain I can find it. I mean, I have it from last year, but I don't have it pulled up right now. And it's hard for me to get in and take your notes and help
Right.
with the administer the meeting and pull it up. But it's right around, I want to say $1.38 per capita. For all towns.
Countywide?
Excuse me?
Countywide.
Yes. So each town pay, we base it off the census. Each town basically and charge $1.38, I believe it is, per person. We remove group quarters, so Middlebury College comes out, the Northland Job Corps comes out. I know there was a problem with Ripton in the last census because they had some people up at Breadloaf in 2020, so we will take care of that. And basically, then you just do the math from there. And countywide, it adds up to about $46,000.
The 1.38 is correct.
Yep, 1.38.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. Ross. And as you recall, we overbilled people 2 years ago. We basically gave them a refund last year. So while we're level funding it, it may look like it went up a little bit because we returned money to people last year. So that's more of an FYI, that's more for your information. We'll send out a letter basically letting everybody know it's level funded. Assuming that you pass this.
There's a question from Rich.
Yeah, I seem to recall, Adam, that some towns were subject to a floor.
Yes. So there are some very small towns. And basically I think it's $250. I think just about everybody's over the floor at this point. But we did have a kind of a minimum amount.
Thank you.
Thanks. Are there any other questions? Hearing none. So the motion's been made and seconded to level fund the dues for fiscal year 2026 to what they were in fiscal year 2025, which we now know is $1.38 per capita. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed by stating nay or raising your hand now. And any abstentions, please state your name. So the ayes have it, and we have approved level funding of $1.38 for the fiscal year 2026 dues. The next item up on the agenda is the fiscal 20 year 20. Yes.
Can you remind me who seconded that motion? You did? Ross did. Thank you.
Yeah. So next item is the fiscal year 2023 audit presentation and vote to accept.
Okay, so in your package, there is a copy of a draft audit. I was hoping to have the final audit by today. I do not quite have that. I know that Steve has been working with April to continue his testing. We did go over this draft with the executive board. So Steve came to the executive board meeting a week ago and basically presented his draft. I will summarize it for you. The whole audit is there in the package. I don't believe it will change substantially from the testing. I think I'm not going to ask you to vote on it tonight because it's a draft. We'll take it up in January. But I will tell you it is a clean audit. There are no findings, so no material misstatements, good controls, no incidents of fraud, and the best news, we basically increased our funds by ran in the black last year by about $77,000, which is a pretty sizable increase for us. As you know, we're not necessarily in the market to make money, but it's always nice for us when it happens. Having money in the bank gives us the ability to plan for the future. So overall, I am pleased with the results of the audit and happy to take any of your questions.
I just wanted to say that the meeting the executive board had with Steve, the auditor, was very good. He was very open to answering any questions that we had, and again, as Adam just said, he was very pleased with everything, and expressed, that everything looked exactly how he would want it to look. So it was a very good audit report that we received. Cheryl.
Yeah, do you know, Adam, if he's still working on that aspect of the audit that was referring to our lease being a long-term lease versus like a month-to-month lease? Do you know if that's one of the reasons why it's not quite finished yet?
I sent him basically correspondence that I had with our landlord, Bill Townsend, and basically showed him where we exercised our option to extend the lease for 5 years. This past June, I believe it was, or just before June. So I believe that item is taken care of. He's doing, I'd call it some random testing. So, every 10th bill he's making April give him basically all the receipts and things like that. So I believe it's the testing that's still going on. And April and I did give him some comments and asked him to look at a couple of things. For example, our transportation contracts run basically October to September, whereas our fiscal year is a July to June 30th fiscal year. And we asked him to reconcile some things with that. He needed to look at the both full transportation years in order to get the full picture. So we asked him to take care of that. There were a couple other little tiny things, but like I say, I don't think it's anything substantial. And I will bring the final audit back to you again next month and present it to you, and we can look at any changes that are there, and I'll ask you to vote on it at that time.
Great, thanks, Adam. Any other questions? Great, and there'll be more opportunity, obviously, to discuss and ask questions at our next meeting when we approve it. So the next item up for business is the change to the personnel policy to reflect a healthcare change.
Yep. So I noticed the full board has approved the personnel policy in the past. So let's see, as some of you probably know, Blue Cross Blue Shield has been going up substantially. So April and I were looking at basically changing plans. One, to try and save us some money, and two, to make them also, I guess, more family friendly for people. We have very good benefits for individual employees, and less so for families, in that we pay most everything for individuals, but for families, they add on. So we looked for some less expensive plans. We have, I presented a plan to your executive board at its last meeting in order to get into open enrollment for December. We proposed basically switching to MVP from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Again, largely it's less expensive. So it's less expensive for the commission, and it's less expensive for our employees. The MVP is a higher deductible plan, so we also switched from an HRA to an HSA, health reimbursement account, to a health savings account. It'll help the employees cover basically the larger deductible with the MVP plan, and basically keeps them at the same level of health care, but costing them a little bit less. So the benefit stays basically the same, maybe improves even a little bit, and the cost of the plan to both the employees, especially those employees with families, and to the Regional Planning Commission is less. So the language that I included in your package largely reflects changing from an HRA to an HSA, and I'm sorry, I thought I had it in track changes in here, but as I look at my memo as it printed out, it's not track changes. The other thing we did, the executive board interpreted family to include domestic partners. And otherwise it largely stayed the same.
Can I make just one brief comment, Adam?
Absolutely.
The main difference between the HRA and the HSA is that the HRA is retained by regional planning, meaning if they don't spend it, the $1,500, it stays with regional planning, whereas the $3,000 that we're contributing to the deductible for each employee with the HSA is a health savings account that's a portable benefit for each of those. So right out of the blocks, they're each going to get $3,000. If they need it for health expenses, they spend it. But if they don't, it rolls over to next year with them. So it's like an additional retirement plan contribution. And that's not insignificant relative to what these folks are earning. So it's a good benefit for them, and we didn't come out spending any more money. Is that clear?
We're actually spending less.
Yeah, we're saving money and they get a portable benefit.
Yeah, and I also want to know, Adam spent a lot of time at the executive board meeting with a spreadsheet with numbers and the benefit to, talk about a win-win situation. The benefit was on all sides in this one, and so that was really good to see.
This is Ross. I'd like to make a motion to approve the change to the personnel policy to reflect the healthcare change as presented.
Thanks, Ross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. I think I heard someone in the room second.
Anna.
Anna.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to make the changes to the personnel policy, as noted by Adam. Is there any further discussion of this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, please indicate by saying nay or raising your hand. Okay, and any abstentions, please state your name. Okay, the ayes have it, and we have approved to change the personnel policy, as noted by Adam, with regards to healthcare, the healthcare issues in that. Is there anything for other new business for tonight?
I do not have anything for you, Joe.
Thanks. Any members' concerns or announcements or other information? Hearing none. Then the next thing I have. Oh wait, I heard something. What?
Turn the video on and forgot to unmute. Happy
Oh.
holidays.
Oh yes, happy holidays. Happy holidays, everyone. And I take
Thank
that
you,
as a
Arabella.
motion I'll take that as a motion to adjourn. And so without any further objection, we will adjourn to the 8th of January 2025 at 7 p.m. And I will see you all at that time. And again, have happy holidays.
Happy
Thank
holidays.
you all. Merry Christmas.
Bye.